Just point to me when you wake up. Praise the Lord and good evening. Welcome to Word Up Bible Study, a special edition. If you've been a part of Shiloh since the beginning of the pandemic, one of the highlights of our ministry is that we have always brought you interesting topics, relevant topics that affect our community. We're very, very happy that we want to be able to share with you through the perspective of Christ and those around you how these issues can be tackled. And tonight is no different. Some of the things we've done in the past have been mental health issues. We talked about school issues and education issues. Just been so many things we dealt with. Well, tonight, starting at our regular Bible study, we have a treat. So I'm going to introduce my wife. This is Pastor Dunkins. She's going to be our moderator and host for the evening. She'll let you know who all these fine folk are. But what I need you to do is right now, call somebody up. Let someone share. Tell them to come on. This topic is something you don't want to miss. We have excellent information here for everyone. So tonight, I'm out. I'm not a part of this. My wife's going to take over. I want to introduce First Lady of Shiloh Baptist Church, my lovely wife, Sister Marsha Dunkins. You have it.
Praise the Lord. I thought he forgot my name. I thought my name was right there for a minute. Tonight we have an extraordinary session. We're going to talk about some phenomenal women who have done some phenomenal things. And along with that, we're also having two of our community members ask them questions about the things they have done. So, I would like Miss Kelly Cornish. Oops, I forgot. Since the book has been printed, she is now Dr. Kelly Cornish. Let's give her a hand for that accomplishment. Could you tell us, the audience, a little bit about yourself?
First, we need to do an introduction.
Okay. I'm getting tips from the outside, so first we're going to do a full panel introduction, so you'll know everybody when they start speaking. Okay, I'm starting with the gentleman to my left.
Hello, my name is Shawn Cunningham. I'm part of the technology ministry here at Shiloh Baptist Church. I've been a member since I was probably about 10 years old, so about 31 now, you do the math. But that's just a little bit about me. I normally help with like the cameras and the technology stuff in the back end, but I'm super excited to be here tonight with these lovely ladies.
Thank you, Shawn.
Hello, my name is LaVerne Sease-Batie. I am a member of Shiloh Baptist Church, and I can
Just
Okay, I am a wife, mother. I am a counselor, school counselor, and I am the author of this book, Growth Mindsets for Parents and Children.
Let's give her a hand for that book.
Okay.
Okay, and to my right we have Dr. Kelly Cornish.
Yes, I'm Dr. Kelly Cornish. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I appreciate that. I'm a mother of 3. My full-time job, I have been a special education teacher for 23 years. For high school students, for the past 11 years, I have been a counselor, a licensed counselor in the state of New Jersey.
Okay, and our next guest.
Good evening. My name is China Jones. I'm also a member of Shiloh. Been here for many, many years. I'm a member of a few ministries. I won't name them all. I'm a wife, a mother, also a grandmother, giving me the opportunity of raising children. Totally different this round, you know?
Yeah.
In addition to being a social worker by trade.
Phenomenal.
Can I add something?
Sure can,
I missed out with
I put you on the spot. Go ahead, add a little
So I'm a father and a husband, a father of 5. So I just wanted to, mention that. I heard them talking about their kids. So I was like, you know what? Let me drop my kids in there too. Love every single one of them. 1 son, 4 daughters. So again, happy to be here.
And can I add, you're a blended family too, correct?
Yes, my kids are Caucasian, African American, and Latino.
Wow. In today's society, that's phenomenal. With all the issues we have going on, it's relevant to know who you are, how you are, and why you are. So, let me see who I'm going to ask first. I see LaVerne making a face and Kelly making a face. Okay, LaVerne, how long have you been writing? And how long have you been an author?
I've been writing for a little over 2.5 years now, and I've been an author since 2020.
Okay, how long was that process for you? I know you said 2.5 years, but prior to that, did you do any kind of writing that wasn't published?
Yes. My son is 11, and when I had my son, my goal was to write a book with my son. The first book, my son experienced bullying when he was in 1st grade. So from there, I was like, I'm going to tell him, what to look out for and stuff like that. So we had goals to write a book on bullying. That was my first dream. So since then, I've been like journaling, putting little stuff together. But then when the pandemic came, and I was forced to make a decision whether I was going to work or become a full-time homeschool parent, that's where the idea of my book came about, because homeschooling was not easy for me and my son, because our mindset wasn't conditioned, wasn't geared to the idea of homeschool. So I had to start venturing out and getting strategies, to help me help my son have a productive academic year. So that's where this book comes in. So I'm going to have to wait and go back to the bullying book.
I notice also that your book is for parents and children. Can children read and understand this book?
Well, it's for parents if the strategies are used first. My goal is to have the parents empower themselves, because the title is Strategies That Parents Can Teach Themselves and Teach Their Children. So my goal is for the parents to empower themselves so then they can empower their children.
Tell us a little bit about your book.
So, I've always been a writer, even in my earliest times. As a teenager, I have found things that I have written, and I have found that I've always used the pen and the paper as a way to get things off of my chest, as a way to say things that I couldn't say to other people, a way to have privacy and no judgment. So writing has always been second nature to me. I always do it. If I'm bothered, I just go ahead and write it. I can delete it. I can rip it up. I can throw it away. I can keep it. And it's good to look back. I mean, like, wow, even as a teenager, I was like, wow, I really struggled. Like, it was all right there, black and white, and, the pages. So writing has always been something that's been very natural for me. The concept of this book, H.A.T.S, I started writing it probably in 2009. It was an autobiography. It was my life in these hats, because I was struggling. And I was struggling in a place where I had all these roles and all this responsibility, and I didn't know how to change them, and I kept getting hurt over and over again because of these expectations. Like, we want to be everybody's hero, but there's a price for that when it's not reciprocated. So I started writing this book in 2009, and it was, like I said, an autobiography, and I will eventually publish it, but I wasn't emotionally ready. Had a lot of things going on, had went through a divorce. There was just a lot of things going on. So I said, what could I do that I could help and sow into other people, but I wasn't ready to be vulnerable. And that's how I shifted the H.A.T.S concept to helping others. And strategies. How do we get out of these hats? How do we get stuck there? What's the positive emotion or the reward we get for being in this hat? But what's the negative too? So there's some strategies in there about how to change different hats and things like that. But I initially published the book in 2018, and it kind of sad because I underestimated the PhD process. So my mind said I was ready to go, yeah, I have this book and I want to get out there and I want to do this and I want to do that. But my time and my emotions was not allowing me to do it. So it was kind of there. People have been reading it over the years. I've gotten great feedback on it, but I didn't do it the way that I thought my mind was supposed to do it. So, I definitely need to relaunch to get ready to go with the second book. So the first book probably had the autobiography that I have, probably has about 26 hats in it. So I said, let me pare it back a little bit, and how can I help other people?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I was just sitting here wondering, as I started to read your book, how did you get to a place where you were ready to be transparent?
I've always been a very, very honest person. So if you have a relationship with me and we talk, I can talk. I don't have a problem with that.
Just want to read your book.
So what happens is when you write things, you can't take it back. So I wasn't prepared how people were going to respond if I wrote this. Maybe if you knew me and you knew who I was talking about, one of those things. So when I published this book, I can remember putting a Facebook post saying, no, this has nothing to do with my divorce. If you want the tea, this is the wrong place. Because this isn't what this is about, right? Because we all go through something. You can get tea from anyone. So it was just one of those things. So this is like a little piece of me, but it's not what that autobiography is going to be. But if you talk to me, I'll converse with you all day. But when you put something in black and white, you can't take it back. And I just wasn't ready, to expose some things or maybe some people even. So I compromised and came up with an excellent product. I think I did.
And I agree. Kelly, she came and spoke to our women's ministry, and it was an awesome session. I'm serious. She had me just so encouraged, and she allowed me to feel like I was the only one. And you're not the only one, but when you hear somebody talk about it, it's totally different. So after your presentation, I gave an idea to our women's ministry. They was like, what book do you want to read? I said, how about Kelly's book? When we come back to meet, because it was going to be a weekly meeting, when we come back to meet, my idea was for us to wear that hat of that chapter and represent how you felt when you were reading that particular, right? While you're wearing that particular hat. So I can't wait to go through it and see the experiences of all the women. So I'm really
That's exciting. Thank you. I feel blessed. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm also excited that we have a band on our committee here, because a lot of times in churches we separate the men from the women, but we all want to go to church together. And I think both books are actually for men and women. They can absolutely learn some things about the life and the lifestyles of their mate, which then increases the probability of success. So, with that in mind, Shawn, do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, so you said from 2009 to 2018, like you published it in 2018, but you had it on the back burner, per se, till then. was there like a breaking point or like a something that really sparked it for you? Like, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this. This is the right time. I guess like my question is, what let you know like this is the time right now? Other than like the brief description you gave us about like, you know, that whole time frame. Like what led you to put it out at that point? Because I think people get stuck in those little ruts sometimes where they're not sure they should do something. So like, what was your ultimate like push or inspiration to put it out?
I was wearing a hat, right? So what happened was I worked with this wonderful woman, and she asked me to write a chapter in her book called Shoes for Yana. And I had already been working on the hats behind closed doors, so she invited me to write a chapter in her book, and it was all about the shoes. And I actually met her here many, many years ago before I realized that we worked together. And we rekindled at work, and we started a relationship. And I wrote her the chapter in that book, The Black and White Shoes. That was about me. And it was just surreal for me. Like, here you go again, Kelly. You're always doing somebody else's stuff. Here you go, Kelly. You're always adding to other people's things to get you where you need to be. God was like, when you going to do what I told you to do? Right? You have to do something, because I give and I give and I give. And that was one of the issues that I had with that hat. Like, you're loyal and you give to a fault, right? So what happened was I said, you know what? That's it. And I sat down and I started rearranging things, and it flowed, and I was able to take the autobiography and turn it into something else, and the rest was history. So I had to take the hat off. I had to take it off, and I had to put me first. And a lot of times we don't do that, right? We're always second nature. So when you say that these books are definitely, you know, for the men, absolutely. I've had men read this book, and wow, it's relevant because it's life. You know, so just because it's written in a she pronoun, just change it to he. Whatever you need it to be, and it will resonate with you as well.
I agree. Thank you.
LaVerne, we hear this word mindset all the time. What's your mindset? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? Can you explain to us what the word mindset means and how it works in our lives?
Well, in my book, there are several types of mindset, but in my book I focus on two types, which I try to do with my children and the parents. The two types is a fixed mindset. That's where a person is always thinking negative. They're confidence, they have lack of confidence, they have no confidence at all, and they're not willing to learn. Whereas an individual with a growth mindset, which is where I'm trying to get the parents and the students to always have a growth mindset, those individuals always thinking positive. They have their confidence level is up here, and they're always willing to learn and improve. So the goal is for the growth mindset, because an individual who has a growth mindset, they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. For like Dr. Kelly, where you went and tried to get on your dissertation, I'm sure it had stumbling blocks and stuff, but you was vision focused where you would let nothing stop you. So my goal is that if you have stepping stones, go step over them. Don't stop there. So that is what, to me, and this is what I preach to my students and my son all the time. It's like, don't let nothing take you from your goals. So to me, my thing is I empower my son to always have a growth mindset. I don't care if you fail at something. Give up and try it again.
Shawn, I've watched you since you were yay high to now, and I've seen your growth. I also see how you manage your children. Now, given these two mindsets, which mindset do you think you are, And what do you think you are teaching your children?
Definitely the growth mindset, and to me it's very important to push that to my children. Not even push it, just let it happen organically. I don't like natural. Not that I don't like. I don't like fakeness. So if it can come off as natural as possible, just the way that I was learned when I grow up, that's how I want them to learn it also. Because I have a lot of friends that have kids, obviously too, and sometimes I'll watch them force certain things to their kid where I'm like, well, maybe they don't want to do that. Kind of let them do their thing and let them grow with it. You know what I mean? Like, my son came home with a saxophone a few weeks ago. Hey, Dad, I want to play saxophone. He plays baseball and football normally. I didn't discourage him. I said, go ahead and blow it down. And I heard him in his room. And I was like, okay, like, if that's what you want to do, who am I to say that you won't be the next person doing the Christmas show at the Rockefeller Center in New York, you know? So I definitely try to keep that, me and my wife especially, and combine, keep that growth mindset, because we don't want them to stay stagnant. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've had like somebody say on a podcast one time that I was listening to, Christian podcast, he was like, you know, your children, especially as a father, like, they kind of look at what you're going through. And I have 4 daughters. So I want them to kind of look for a man that's going to be similar to me when they get older. Yeah. You know what I mean? From a successful mind state and from a just trying to push themselves and just be natural and love God. Like, if I could teach my kids anything, to Sister Marsha's point, just love God. You don't do nothing else in your life, love God. At the end of the day, He'll get you through it.
And can I say something?
Sure.
And also, if you said just do it natural, that's a big part of the book and the parent process. I try to empower my parents to be the role model that they desire to see in their children. So if you're producing and putting out stuff that produces growth, if your child is in that environment, they're going to cleave to it because they're going to see it, and it's like lead by example. That's what I try to preach and do in my house. If I want my son to try to be adventurous and go out for something, I have to first let him see it. So I try to empower parents to be the role model that you want your children, to be.
I think that's so important that, you're talking about the parent being the role model, because it has to start somewhere. And it is so hard to be negative in this world. So when we talk about like growth mindset and really being intentional to say, you know what, we're going to find a silver lining. We're going to make lemonades out of this lemon, and just really model that behavior. What I do, for years I taught junior health, which is emotional health. And I would always grab the bottle and I'd ask the kids, like, describe it for me, Is it half full or half empty? So when they go, oh, well, it's half empty, you're a pessimist because you still have half a bottle, it's half full. So spending just that little bit of time reframing it and shaping it to say, you know what, we can make something positive out of this. The smallest step is going to have a huge impact, And kids nowadays, they're different. They don't tell me, show me, right? They want to see that.
I'm looking at
She had something to say.
I was sitting here thinking, LaVerne, Sister LaVerne, I did not know you wrote a book, right? Until I actually, came across First Lady told me about your book. I read it. When I say, it's an example of you know it, but you don't know it. A perfect example. And I want to tell the viewers that are watching that once you read her book, it's relevant. It makes sense. I saw myself, and you took me back to when I was hired at my job. My supervisor wrote what you had in your book, and so I have the growth on. I have the growth. I didn't
Go
know.
Shawn.
Yeah,
Go
Shawn. So I'm reading it, and I really enjoyed your book. And it gives us as parents, we have these skills, but we have to be intentional with them. And if you didn't write your book, look, I knew it, but reading your book, allows
Validate.
yes, and it's going to allow me to raise my grandchildren through a different lens. And I can still use it with my adult children because we're still connected. We're still teaching them, even as adults,
Yeah.
well, older parents, right?
Yeah.
But, and sometimes when I read books, I connect with the writer. So I'm like, wow, this is a great ideal. It really was. And I'm really appreciative of your book. I really am.
Thank you.
And you're right on point with describing the two different mindsets. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so, it's just well written. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah, and some people need that guy, you know, like to how you said, you just verify, like, hey, maybe I was this other type of parent. Anybody could change at any type of time, you know what I mean? So to just put that in light and show the differences, you know, definitely is going to help a lot of people past, you know, what the ones that have read it so far. You know what I mean?
And when I like to say, when we found out that the schools was going to shut down due to COVID, I used to go into the Dollar Trees and I used to see these, because I was a substitute teacher. So I used to see the parents and I said, well, how are you dealing with the online school? And I heard so many parents say, well, I don't know how to do it. You know, I can't do that. He's just going to fail. So that alone with hearing so many parents, and I said to myself, I said, they don't realize that they can do it. They just got to build the confidence up to do it. So along that and along with, I hear a lot of other parents saying, like first of all, where I want to say, before I wrote this book, my son was like on an honor roll every other marking period. After I got a chance to actually sit down and homeschool my son for the 2 years, I can truly say that these strategies work because my son has been on a principal list since. So, but that's because I was aware of the stuff and I stayed up on him, and the stuff that I didn't know, he didn't know I didn't know. So I would Google stuff because it's been so long since I went to school. He bring algebra and all this stuff, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. But I would wait until he's out my way and I'd go Google. So just because you don't know something, you don't have to let your children know everything.
That you don't know.
That you don't know. Yes.
What do you say, like, was like your trigger or your inspiration for it outside of like just going to homeschool? Like, was there a certain event or something that happened that like kind of started to push you more towards it?
Towards writing the book?
Yeah.
Well, my son actually put me out there because we were doing something at the church, and I think Sister McKeever, Pastor McKeever was doing something. And that's when she had her book, and she had presented it. And then my son said, my mom's going to write her book. So everybody heard it. So I was like, and I was in the midst of, writing it down, journal. I didn't even have it halfway done. But he was like, yeah, my mom's going to write a book. So that was my inspiration because he was excited about it. So now I knew I had to go through. But prior to that, I was wearing the hats that Kelly was talking about.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's like the two tie together because you kind of got that hat put right into your mix too, and you knew you were going to do it, but it was just, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And sometimes I think we have to recognize that we have to take one hat off to put another hat on.
Yes.
And that has everything to do with your mindset. You may have been raised in a negative household. So how do I take that 20, 30, 40 years of negativity, that negative hat, and change it into a growth process, a growth mindset? That's for anybody here. How did you change?
I think you just go through your struggles sometime, and I think you really got to be in tune with God, honestly, to get to that point of where you know you want to change. Because, like, I grew up in a negative household. It wasn't all negative, but there were definitely some negative spots there. You know what I mean? I could have did what I saw when I grew up, when I saw when I was younger. But because I was started in church so young, like when I felt like nobody else was there for me, I knew God was. You know what I'm saying? So knowing that kind of helped me change, because there is times when I've done bad things in my life. I ain't perfect, but there was also those very next days when I was like, this isn't godly. Man, I'm sinning like crazy over here. I better not show my face at church on Sunday. You know what I mean? A few Sundays, like just that continuously happening for me helped me want to grow more, because I was like, I can't fall to what I was grown up around. And again, it wasn't terrible, but there was definitely spots there where I could have at any chance switched. Like one story, for instance, my biological father kidnapped me, my brother, my sister, took us on like a high-speed chase. He actually wrapped the vehicle that we were driving around a tree. So I could have actually died when I was like 3 or 4 years old, but I didn't. And I could have held on to not seeing him and being around him my whole life and not be a good father to my children, because that's the example I was set, but I didn't. So, you know, to answer your question, Sister Marsha, I think like if you're good with God, you're going to get past all that, in my opinion. Like you can get through some of it if you think you're not good with God, but once you get real good with God and just be honest and ask for help and know that if nobody else is your father, got one right there, then it keeps you with that growth mindset, my opinion.
I want to add a word, because it's not really removing the hats and getting rid of the hats, right? It's more of a balancing act. How do we balance the hats so we can grow, right? Because if you're wearing a hat for too long and you're stuck in it, you're going to be stuck. And you're not going to move, and you're going to be complacent, and you're going to be lukewarm, and you're not going to produce fruit and all these different things. So when you learn how to maneuver the hat, like when I did the presentation, sorry but not sorry, there are some things that you just have to kind of let go and say, you know what? Yeah, I can help you, but it's all right if I say no. I don't have to keep that guilt or whatever it's satisfying or preventing me from walking away from it. So it's more of a balancing act, because no matter what we do in our lives, we will always have a role. You will always wear a hat. You're going to leave here, you wore a hat coming here, there's a hat right now going on. When you go home, you got a hat. China, you're going to go to the back with the babies, there's one right there. We can't stop the role. It's
we
there.
won't talk about my hat.
No, we know. We know. I don't know if you guys all know out there, but we definitely know about the hats. But what happens when you don't balance them? So there are some, you can't take off a parent hat. You just can't take it off. You can't take off not being there. You have to find a balance.
And I'm glad you said that, because a parent's hat does not stop at 18. It does not stop at 21. It lasts for a lifetime of the relationship between you and your child. And you need to keep that going in a positive way. And the only way we can do that is by having what? A growth mindset. And making sure we know how to balance the hat. Okay, now I know there are some more questions out there. So come on. You can even ask us some questions. I mean, you can ask our parents some questions. As they look at me and laugh.
You know I'm just automatically silly anyway, so some things just don't change. Like they just don't change. I'm just silly by nature.
Like when you said for the parents' hat, right? It's safe to say that that parent's hat, you always keep it on, but like you can turn it to the back a little bit. You ever seen somebody put a second hat over another hat and kind of put it towards the front, but just know that that's it? Yeah, try to camouflage.
It's like all in moderation.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
A little bit of this, a a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Like, I have a firefighter hat, I have an officer hat, you know, for all the control freaks out there.
Yeah.
You know, you're always putting other people's problems. People come to you all the time, toxic people. I have a chef hat when you're preparing, trying to be a perfectionist. Yeah, I have a full face cover. You know, the depression, there's 10 of them in there. The dunce hat, you know, when we do stuff and we feel stupid, but we shouldn't because everybody makes mistakes. The construction hat, which goes perfectly with your growth mindset. We're under construction. The question is, do you need a remodel? Do you need a tear down? Or do you need a rebuild? So when you're looking at all those areas of your life, you gotta be able to say, you know what? This area isn't good. That might need a remodel. Because when you stop growing, you stop living. And if you're not willing to grow, if you're not willing to be accountable, if you're not willing to recognize the areas that you fall short, you're never going to soar. And that's all about having that growth mindset. You know, we all go through it. There's no shame in it. What are you going to do with it? And that's the growth part of it.
Right. And I would just like to quote the author, LaVerne, Sease-Batie. She says in her book, goals without a plan is a wish. I'm like, so on point. And people have goals without they're wishing. Okay, you want this, you want that. Oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But if you don't put a plan together, you're just over there wishing. So you may verbalize you want growth, but if you don't put a plan behind it, you're just going to be wishing your entire life.
And how do we do that, LaVerne? Because I read a part of your book that tells us on how to put those things together.
Well, that's why I put this book together, because for trying, like even confidence, the plan could be what type of strategy do I need to put in place to achieve that goal. I even went to the point where I put up a strategy about not to quit, because so many times we as parents and children, if we come across a roadblock, we're just done, because you don't have any strategy. You don't have that roadmap of how to navigate around that problem. So that's how you do it. You dig up the strategies to help you, achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve.
Now, I also read, you gave us some specific directions now. Look, I'm going to dig in deep here because no one else is going to answer this question. You said set goals. Now, there are many different ways we can set goals. Agreed, everybody? Would you go to your chapter on goals and kind of try to give us a framework of how to set a goal, how small the goal could be, or how large the goal could be? I see her flipping that book because I read that one. I have trouble in that area, setting goals.
Well, that is in chapter 5, and it's titled Shifting Your Mindset for Success. And I had on page 48, strategies for establishing goals. And you can go as far as make a list. And how you make a list is to write down your goals in a journal. And they can be, but you want to visualize them. So write them down and post them. It can be something as far as if you have weight issues. I want to start walking at least 15 minutes a day. Put that on your journal or on the board, like a vision board. So you can start by doing that. And then also you can document your goals. I tell people to try to reach for like 50 to 100 goals. You might not even make 50, but the ideal that you can visualize those goals, you might be able, it could be something as simple as I want to start reading. It could be a simple goal. So 50 to 100 seems like a lot, but if I want to get up and start reading scriptures, you can have, your goal is what you desire to achieve. So, and daily rituals. A daily ritual can be getting up early in the morning, praying to God or whoever you believe in. That could be empowering yourself by quoting stuff to build up your self-esteem, your confidence. So there are some types that, as far as setting goals, you can do that. Like, and I have one, meditation. That's a goal. How many times do we not be so busy we don't have time to sit down and meditate on anything? So.
Let alone think about a goal, right? Go ahead, Shawn.
Yeah, and I love how you say 50 to 100 goals, because I think sometimes we as humans make these big goals, and when we don't hit them, we have no wins to celebrate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So if you're shooting for a lot of different goals, and it could be something simple, daily goals that you could hit, I think once you start winning, and winning often, then that's when your mind starts to grow more on achieving those goals, because you're like, all right, got maybe 10 off the list today, and it could have been just simple, things that you want to do to change your life. So really inspiring for everybody, and I encourage everybody to try to set as many goals as possible, to your point, because the more you win, the stronger your mind's going to get, I feel.
And I'm just going to read this a little bit. It says, a strategy for establishing goals will help you discover ways to achieve your goals more effectively. This strategy, which is in the book, is effective because it provides hands-on technique that help individuals decide on which future goals are most important for success. So when you're writing down the goals, you determine which one is more important for you during that time.
Very good. You said write down, you said journal, you said vision board. Can you explain to our audience what a vision board is actually?
A vision board is basically just what you vision yourself to achieve throughout your year. Like, I have a vision board, and mine is to go to Africa. When I'm going to get there, I don't know right now, but I have a growth mindset that eventually I'm going to get there. So, but that is on my vision board. And then I give a time frame as to when I want to achieve that, goal. So a vision board is basically putting stuff down where you can vision, where your mindset can stay on, the goal that you want to achieve. Now, Dr. Kelly, what is your version of a vision board?
I would pretty much say the same thing, like the things we want to do and what we see in the years to come, even if it's tomorrow. Sometimes they're short term and they're not long term. But when you were talking, I was thinking about, that strategy of goal setting and what happens when if we continually fail, or if we're not being consistent, so we adjust the goal to make it attainable. And then we're still having a hard time, whether it be with motivation. So I say let's go a little bit deeper. So sometimes the roadblock to your goals is your mental health. And again, that is an even bigger picture that we don't talk about. That's what I did my dissertation on, mental health promotion in faith-based organizations, and how the dialogue is not there. The mind is part of the body. You can't have one without the other, but yet we have no problem talking about cancer. We have no problem talking about diabetes, but we don't want to talk about mental health. And it's why? It's taboo. But the reality of the situation is we all have mental health. We all have emotions.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what I call it, because it gets real ugly sometimes. And it's something I think that we shy away from, and we should be running to, because how do you cope? And when we can't cope, we can't function. And when we can't function, we can't be productive. So looking even at a bigger picture, if you're constantly, I want to go walk. I sure do. I make plans to go walk all the time. I do. Guess what? It's not happening. There's a bigger issue going on with me, right? Or like when we talk, survivors of sexual assault and things like that. Maybe they don't want to lose weight because they don't want anybody to be attracted to them. So sometimes the picture is so much bigger than what it appears to be. It's not just a snapshot. There's a whole portrait going on.
And I need to ask you this because I'm in the generation of the 70s, the 60s and the 70s.
70s are a good year.
Yeah, good. They were real good. Free love, free wine, free whatever.
I was born in the 70s.
Well, I was a teenager then, so you can imagine what I was doing in the 70s. Anyway, my parents did not talk about the mental health background of my family. So in church I learned about these generational curses that come into play and that I have a predisposition to act a certain kind of way. I think both books address that, and I am so glad to say that in November we are going to be, as a church, having a mental health workshop on loss and grief and things of that nature during the pandemic. So let's talk a little more about that mental health and how your books deal with that process.
Mine is all about mental health. I think from the beginning to the end, it's all mental health. After every chapter, there are very specific questions. For example, this roly-poly hat I have right here, I call it the warm and fuzzy zone. Is it comfort, contentment, or complacency? Which one is it? One of the questions I ask, what have you settled for in the past? Do you have any regrets? If so, what are they? Because sometimes we live in regrets. So I argue that we settle because we do not know our self-worth. We do not embrace individuality, and we get stuck in the illusion of how we think it should be based on someone else's philosophies and principles. We chase dreams that don't belong to us because we believe in someone or something other than ourselves. For some reason, we terminated our dreams and chose a life of comfort, restricting the movement that extends beyond our nicely wrapped box. We are okay and satisfied with existing every day, but we're forgetting to live. We get stuck there, we get comfortable, and you know what? If where you're at is where you're supposed to be, that's fine. But I believe many of us know where we are is not where we're supposed to be.
Okay, doctor, do you have an appointment on
Yes.
Do you have
Call my secretary.
But when we think about that, you got to remember, even culturally, we have a bias against discussing mental health. Stigma, yes. And they'll say, oh, well, Uncle Gene, he just like that. Or, and Grandma, Grandma just had to go away for a while. And we, as this generation, or the generation under me, I should say, have to get bolder in teaching their children how to live daily. Not live through somebody else, but deal with each moment and each day.
We're no longer in a children should be seen and not heard mentality. We're not there anymore. Kids, I've been dealing with teenagers, so I work with 11th and 12th graders. And over the years, the things these kids say they need, in different assignments and things like that, they're people too. They have feelings and emotions too. It's not okay in the world that we live in to say, you know what, sit there, don't say anything. Act like it didn't happen. When you can turn on the TV, go on the internet, and do all these different things, and they're being exposed to all this stuff that they have questions to.
Or even make your own TikTok.
Make your own TikTok. Still trying to figure that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important with your children especially when they get to I like to say that 9 to 12 range, or even 9 and up, I'd say. You need to be open with them and let them be open with you, but not press to let them think they're in trouble to an extent. I'd say that because like me and my son a few weeks ago, like he was just down some. And as his father, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Nothing. Okay, did you do your math homework? Yeah. Go and open the book bag, math homework's still in there. And that's unlike him. So I'm like, what's wrong with you? Nothing, I'm fine. So we started talking, and I was like, look, I think it's time for me to have this story with you because like his mom's not around, and when I was growing up, my dad wasn't around. So I never really like expressed that to him and let him know like I went through the same things that you went through, and I'm okay. Did I struggle? Of course. But I said, I want you to know that I understand where your head's at right now, and I understand why you're sad. And I just started bringing up things. I was like, I know you're sad because your mom is not here, and she may not be spending the time with you that is necessary out of her choice. I know that there's just different things that are going on in your young mind right now that you may not think that you can express to me, but I'm not going to judge you. I look at, honestly, myself in little old you when I was your age going through some of the same things. So I think it's important to not like come at your kids like, what's wrong with you? Why is this happening? Really think and think hard what could possibly be going through their head. You know what I mean? Nobody has perfect lifestyle or grows up perfect. Me and my wife aren't perfect, you know what I mean? And he knows that, but after that, he's actually came around and like the little rut he was going through, he broke out of it because I think he's seen like, okay, Dad's always talking about success and when you and I was like, I don't want you to feel like that's pressure, that's me. If you want to, go ahead. You know what I mean? So.
And a lot of times we forget that kids also have fear. So he might have been experiencing some fears, and that's why I'm going to read this. It says, when I was doing my practical, for some reason, I've been working all these years and working with children, but it was within the community. But now my practical was in the school setting. So I dealt with some, which I wrote in my book, and it's called Overcoming My Fears. And it says, fear can cause a person to experience some levels of anxiety and panic. It's probably what your son was experiencing at the time. How an individual reacts when they are afraid can vary differently from person to person. The first step in overcoming your fear is to figure out why you are scared and why you shouldn't be afraid. I found myself in this situation on the first day of my practical, which is I had to do a certain many hours. And I was fearful that if I didn't do the classroom lessons right or the individual lessons right, that my practical supervisor, if they didn't sign that I hit all of the criteria, I was going to have to repeat that class again. So fear set in. So I realized why I was afraid. So when you're afraid, you got to sit down and say, why? What caused me to be afraid? And then, but why I wonder if I really should be afraid. Suddenly, my growth mindset told me to go for it and not be afraid. So that is the importance of a growth mindset. Growth mindset allows you to build yourself up, to develop that self-confidence, because once you have the self-confidence that you can do it, you ain't gonna let nobody stop you. Nobody. I don't care if they tell you ain't do it right. Confidence is not knowing that they like me. Confidence is knowing that I will be okay.
Looking at was growth. If you wasn't able to realize and put yourself in your son's shoes, because you have some parents would push them to the side. Wait, suck it up. Go and get your homework done, and not trying to connect with them. To me, that's growth.
Yeah.
So because you're able to grow, you're now sowing inside, you're sowing to your son. So it's just full circle. Awesome.
I think there's a big misconception too, that if we talk about things, it's going to make them happen. But we can talk to our kids about suicide and about drug and alcohol use, about mental health and all these different things. It's not going to make them do it. So we shouldn't be afraid to have conversation and dialogue. What's going on? What did you see today? What has you stuck in this place? talking is good when they don't talk. And when they can't talk, that's when the problems really start. So I commend you for allowing that conversation and dialogue
Being vulnerable.
to happen. Absolutely.
Because Shawn could act like some parents forget they experience certain things.
Absolutely.
So they want to forget and not be transparent. And I'm a strong believer of, I was that way too. Let's talk about it. Or I don't want to act like I had it all together my entire life, because that's a facade that you're giving to your kids. It's okay to feel that way. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and with kids sometimes it's a little challenging when it comes to grandparents, especially because I'm like, Mima wouldn't let me get away with that. So I don't know how you're getting away with that right now.
That's the privilege of being a grandparent.
The grandma was not the mother I knew.
I'm like, don't get it twisted. I don't know how she lets you get away with that. Don't think that I got away with that too.
Oh wow, age escapes me. I just lost my train of thought on that one. And I was going to say that it's very important. One of the breakthroughs that I learned when I was doing my master's, which I never completed because of fear of the test. Really, I had one class to do, and I was afraid to take the test.
Well, I'm going to need you to go back and take that test.
I don't know.
It's never too late.
I don't know.
Never too
It's right there.
Well, we'll see. We'll give that to God. How about that one? And it was that there are no failures in life. There are just 1,000 different ways of not to do something. And if we could let our children know that when they make a mistake or they say something wrong, if we could put it in positive language and say, do you think you could say that a different way? Or, we're getting a signal for 5 minutes, everybody. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let each one of you have a minute roundup, and then we'll close up. Kelly, you're first.
We talked about this. We talked about this before.
No fear.
So thank you for having me on here today to Let's Talk About It, and I'm glad we talked about it. Hopefully going forward, I'll be putting out another book, but for now, H.A.T.S Book 1, Helping Alleviate Tumultuous Seasons, is available on Amazon. You can hit me up on Facebook. You can get it from me directly. You can also see me at www.kellycornish.com. You can also link up with me there. I'd love to talk about it. I actually have a page that says, Let's Talk About It. So, I only got 30 seconds. I was watching the clock. See how she's trying to shut me down. All right, so, but again, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Bill.
Okay, Miss Bates. I'm sorry.
I just like to say that even though this book is titled For Parents and Children, this book is for anyone who desires to obtain a growth mindset and achieve goals. But my primary audience for this book will be stressed out parents who desire and seeking strategies to help their children performance in school and at home. So, and I guarantee you that if you get this book, just knowing and seeing and start implementing these strategies to your kids and yourself, and when you start seeing yourself achieving goals as parents, you will have the confidence in knowing that you played a significant role in helping your child achieve their goals. So my book is on Amazon, and also you can go to lcsbooks.com. And if you see me around town, I always have some in my trunk.
Okay, so what would your last piece of advice be after this? Let's talk about it.
I think just be more open out there. Like she mentioned, mental health. That's real big, especially with my generation. I know I don't think there's a huge age gap between us, but like my generation, I think hides. I think they hide from like the mental health aspect. So like get out there, seek help. Mental health doesn't mean you need to go to like a psychiatrist and get anxiety medicine. Maybe talk to a pastor at a church. Maybe just talk to somebody. Maybe just try to just.
There's free 1-800 helplines. There's all type of
Seriously.
anonymous services out there that, you can tap into.
And break the old mindset.
Exactly. Just be open with it all, but that's all I got.
What you got, Simon? Last words. Your last words for the evening.
She was little Kelly.
Little Kelsey.
Love you, China girl.
But I just really appreciate you too. There's some type of quote that says if you want to, keep information from somebody, put it in the book. But these are two books that I really believe that people need to read, for growth.
Thank you.
I want to give all of you a round of applause for doing such a great job on Let's Talk About It. And at this minute, Pastor, you have 20 seconds. Would you like to come up? So he doesn't. You have 10 seconds, so hurry up. 8, 6.
I want to thank everybody, and please tell someone about this. It's going to be on our Facebook. Thank you guys, did a great job, and I think this was so informational. I appreciate everyone. God bless you all for looking, and we're going to also do a program on breast cancer. Not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. You'll get more information on that. Tips, how to protect yourself, how to make sure you are taking preventative measures about breast cancer. All right? God bless you. Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
All right. And that's all right.
Great God.